We're recording. Oh my God, we're live. We're not really live, but we're recording. Anyways, hello, Nicole. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So I just want to let everybody listening and maybe watching this video, there's going to be a lot of noise. There is a construction site behind me. Don't have the quietest building in the world. So a little disclaimer there. But before we get started, Nicole, can you just introduce yourself to my audience and the world around us?
I'm Nicole Frolick,
Yeah.
and I am an intuitive life coach. I am the co-host of or I should say, I'm actually the host of the podcast Enlighten Up. I am the creator of the program AlcheME, and I also have a vulnerability series on my YouTube channel called Raw and Real, where I get really raw and vulnerable with my audience as a way to, I guess, give permission slips to everyone else to start becoming more vulnerable, but it's also very healing for me.
Wow. Yeah, I did see that. I commend you on that. Like I'm such a chicken shit when it comes to that stuff. Like, I mean, this is pretty well putting myself out there as it is, but to get that far in that raw, in that real, and I've seen you in that, and I've known you for years, and it's like, man, I commend you on that. So yeah, fantastic. So before we get going here, the topic of the day is, and this is something I've been really excited to talk to you about because I've seen your videos. I've listened to you on your podcast, been on your podcast, and I want to know, we've been talking about the Starseeds, portals, and I want to talk about galactic influences. All right. So pick one and we'll go from there. We won't go down
No,
the rabbit.
you guide me. You guide me. This is your
So, okay.
show.
So I was thinking, let's start with something. We'll start with this. I think we'll start with Starseeds first. What is a starseed? Are we all starseeds? Okay. So just kind of explain what starseeds are.
Well, it's basically those of us who are coming from different star nations to incarnate here on Earth to help raise the awareness of the planet, to go through our own awakening, deeper awakening. There are a lot of lessons to be learned here in Earth School. This is one of the more difficult planets in our galaxy to
Yep.
learn from. From what I understand, it's not the hardest, but it's pretty high up there. And so when you do incarnate here, you are coming in with the full awareness that you're a badass and that you have what it takes to be here. Now, of course, in the human form, it doesn't always feel like that. And a lot of us struggle with taking on the emotional overload of feeling so much because we don't understand how to have proper energetic boundaries. But basically, anyone who's come from another star nation is a starseed, which what I believe is quite a few of us here.
So you're basically talking about the cosmology of the soul. So where we first kind of got the burst out from consciousness, and we kind of situated ourselves in a certain planetary, I don't know, center planetary system, and that's where we originate from. So your particular soul and my particular soul come from a particular planetary system. Is that what you're talking about?
Kind of. I mean, I really resonate with the Pleiades, but I think almost virtually every single one of us starseeds have to come through the Pleiades star system in order to get to Earth because it's the closest star system. I also know that I definitely feel that I have other star heritage, galactic heritage within my own, I guess you could call it cosmic DNA. I resonate very much with, I'm starting to, it's interesting. As you awaken more, you awaken to more, your DNA starts to activate and you start to remember and awaken to more of your galactic heritage. Some of the galactic heritage that I'm understanding is actually Lyran and reptilian, believe it or not. And
Oh, interesting.
yeah, so there's so much to learn. And of course, it's important. Some people get caught up in the community of thinking, oh, reptilian, they're all bad. And that's just like assuming like every human is bad or every human is good. Every race has its good and bad, like with anything, dark and light, yin and yang. It's the universe, right? You can't
Of
have the
course.
dark without the light. So, yeah, so it just, I don't know. From what I understand, I've listened to some different Akashic records, which the Akashic records hold all of the information and knowledge on your entire existence from the spark of life of when your soul was created. But it could have started in a different galaxy. You could have been like way out. You could have been in a different universe because
Yeah.
it's a multiverse. So this can get really far out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that there's so much information out there, and there's a lot of information out there. I mean, we can go down this rabbit hole. We could probably stay on this topic for so long, but it's always interesting. Like, I mean, for all my psychic awareness and all this different stuff, I have never experienced that kind of connection to to a starseed, to my so-called galactic family yet. But I have little instances of certain things that show up, but nothing to the magnitude of which you talk about too, as well, with your connection with the Palladians. So how did you get connected to your star family or your star seed, or the original or the origin of your, your galactic family, your Palladian family? How did you get connected to that?
Well, I was kind of introduced to the Palladians when I was in my early 20s through my naturopath. She
That far
handed me
back, eh?
I was about 21, 22. And she said, "Have you heard of the Palladians before?" I said, "No, who are they? Or what are they?" And she suggested I get this book and I read about it.
Which one
And
was it? Was
so
it Barbara Hand Cloud?
no, it wasn't, but I can't remember
Barbara
which.
Messiniak? I know there was two. There's two ladies that Barbara Hand Cloud did the Palladian agenda, and then Barbara Messiniak also was another lady too as well. She did a Palladian one too.
Yeah, I can't remember which one it
Yeah.
was. But I remember reading it, and the reason being she was holding meetings. Do you remember who was one of the original channelers of the Palladians? But he was male, or he is male.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I want to say, who's the guy who oh man, why can't I remember?
You're
He
asking the wrong
does
guy, because my memory is not that great.
so which actually, for anyone out there, when your memory's not working well, it's because you're not in your body. You're not spending enough time in your body. So it's important to have a better relationship with body, ground in your body more. And that's why a lot of us start to lose our memories. It's because we're leaving our body more and more.
That's an interesting fact. Yeah, I certainly believe that, for all the psychic
Yeah.
work I do.
Cryon.
Oh yes, Cryon. Yes. Oh yes, I know that guy. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but he didn't do. It was a play.
Lee Carroll.
That's it. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay,
Unfortunately, I don't have the budget right now to code and go, "Hey, Jamie, can you look that up for me right now? Can you Google
Okay,
that, please?"
no,
Cryon.
that's the guy, Lee Carroll.
Yes, I do remember. Yes, the Cryon
He
journal.
was okay. So this is back in the 90s,
Yes.
and he was talking in my naturopath's basement to people, like they were having.
Come on.
Yeah, and she
Wow,
asked me, "Do you
freaky.
want to come and listen to some of the channelings of the Palladians?" And I, of course, didn't know anything about it. I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to come." And I think I have a recollection of walking down the stairs. I must have been there, but I don't remember anything about it, which is kind of interesting to me now that I'm reflecting upon it. But yeah, Lee Carroll was in my naturopath's basement.
Wow, that's because he used to do these big audiences, travel around the world. He's got, what, I don't know, 10,
Yeah, but
15
this was
books.
over 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
this was before he was super big.
Wow. Just getting the message out. That's kind of where you started. You started in basements, somebody's house, somebody's spa, whatever, and you kind of just start spreading the message. But now
Well,
the great thing is we have, YouTube and certain
mm-hmm.
platforms we can use too as well. So it's fantastic. But
I
wow,
think also my naturopath was very connected in that kind of, back then the community was a lot smaller than it is today, because you didn't have YouTube, because you didn't really have big websites and all that yet.
Yeah.
The community was a lot smaller, and people were just really in the know of who was who. And so I think she was doing a lot of retreats and stuff. And so I think she had connected with him and was able to bring him when he came to Toronto to her house.
Wow. That's so cool. I love little things like that. Yeah, because back in those days, you just kind of knew somebody who knew somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your connection, stuff like that. When did they start appearing to you? Was it, I know we talked, a few incidents, talking about your meditations and all the crazy experiences you have. When did they first kind of approach you, go, "Hey, Nicole, we're here, How'd they introduce themselves to you?
It was more of me needing to build the connection with them. So for some people, they'll appear, and other people, like, and I would say the majority of us need to work on the connection and have to build it by continuously reaching out and trying to connect, even if you don't feel like you're connecting with anyone or anything. And that's that's one of the hardest parts of the journey, is that a lot of us just get discouraged and we stop. But the connection is really important. Like, you have to be at a certain frequency usually to be able to communicate, hear, see, feel their presence. And in 2016, 2017, I was going through a massive reawakening, I guess. I've been awakening since I was 17 and going through phases. But I mean, you remember, I had a big party phase. I was drinking a lot, and
Yeah,
which
that sounds familiar to me too, as well.
yeah, I mean, it's actually very common amongst us starseeds.
Yeah.
We're like, we're going to Earth. We're going to have a good time.
Oh yeah, I was trying to forget a lot of things during those times. Yes. Yeah.
Well, actually, I want to talk about that, but so remind me to go back to that
Okay.
because it's important for people to understand why that's happening. But in 2016, 2017 is when I started to get visions in my third eye. 2017, I actually had a physical experience where they appeared in my backyard in non-corporeal entity, which is an orb form. And I had been speaking to them for about 2 hours in meditation prior to that. I was going through a tough time in my spiritual awakening where two people I had trusted very much I felt betrayed by. I felt like my entire earth had opened up under me and I didn't know where I was falling. I didn't know what was true, what wasn't true anymore. And I was just questioning everything. I was questioning myself. I was questioning my faith. And I was feeling really alone. And I just remember crying in this meditation, begging actually for the Pleiadians to just let me know that they're here, that I'm not alone. And when I left that meditation, I walked down the stairs. That summer I was up at my parents' place, and they were both sleeping. The whole house was dark. And I went down into the kitchen and I was getting water from the water cooler, which was right beside the sliding doors to go out into the backyard.
Okay.
And as I was pouring water, I heard in my mind, look out the window. And I thought, did I just make that up in my head? Because this is what happens when these messages start to come in, kind of like telepathic messages or downloads. We question if we just made it up in our own head.
Yeah.
But one of the ways that you can verify if it's just you thinking it versus it coming in is it usually comes in pretty fast.
Okay.
And so you don't really have time to think about it until, of course, your ego gets in the way trying to tell you, yo, you just thought about that.
Yeah, you're making this stuff up. It's your imagination.
Yeah. So I go and I look out the window, out of the sliding doors, and I'm just kind of have this massive maple tree in the backyard. And I'm just kind of looking around, and I had this thought in my mind, like, wow, wouldn't it be so cool if there were fireflies or something like out tonight? And then that's when it happened. All of a sudden, this orb that was about, I want to say between the size of a baseball and a soccer ball, white orb, just appeared out of the maple tree, and it started like darting in and out, up and down, like in very fast up and down directions that
wow,
things don't naturally move that way on their own. And I watched it for a solid minute. And I remember while I was watching it, first I thought, oh, you are here. And I was so excited. And then I thought, you are seeing this, Nicole. Do not tell yourself later you didn't see this, that you made this up. This is happening. I actually had to say it out loud to myself.
Wow.
This is happening. Because I knew myself. I knew I would, like, well, maybe I didn't really see it, which is totally the human. We're programmed that way to disbelieve ourselves. Sure. It's inherently part of the matrix system. So, so I did see them, and now they started channeling through me about a year and a half ago, March of 2019. when I went through an incredible heart opening where I had decided to get extremely vulnerable and open my heart to someone I cared about, who I didn't know if they felt the same way. And I was terrified because I'm, anyone who knew me growing up knew I was not a vulnerable person at all. And because I opened myself up, I received an incredible Pleiadian heart activation, which then, I mean, if anyone knows the Pleiadian signature is love. They love to love. That's like the Pleiadian thing. And, Arcturians are very intelligent. They're very technological. Pleiadians are all about love. And so when I was able to open up that heart frequency and push past a boundary where I wasn't normally used to doing, which was, of course, lending myself extremely vulnerable, I now was resonating in a heart frequency that matched the Pleiadians, and they could communicate with me more.
So the Palladians, from my understanding, they're more fifth dimensional, right? Obviously, because that deals with the love and universal love and consciousness.
Fifth, seventh, ninth.
Right? All of them.
Just
So
depends. Yeah.
So do they make their access through that dimension, or I mean, are they a lot higher in that dimensions and moving their way down into more fifth and stable because it's easier for us to kind of move up to the fifth versus kind of us trying to go higher because it's very difficult for us to to kind of
Yes
get
and
to that
no.
seventh.
It actually isn't difficult for us to access those dimensions.
The seventh, like the sixth, seventh, and eighth, and all those other ones.
You can be accessing 12th dimension right now if you really wanted to.
Oh, that's interesting.
You as a multidimensional being are able to access multiple dimensions at the same time while you're in 3D. That's actually, I spoke about this recently, about a week ago, where I said to everyone on the call, this was a massive meditation event. And I said, the spiritual community has programmed us to believe that we as human beings are actually maybe less powerful and less capable of doing things that beings in other dimensions, higher dimensions, are able to do. But what if the reverse was true? What if we were more powerful because we could access all of those dimensions and manifest while still being in an extremely dense reality, such as third dimension?
Interesting.
And I just feel like that's part of the psyop that is prevalent in every industry, including the spiritual community, to keep us thinking that we're not as powerful as we actually are. We're a highly coveted species, the human race. And it's because our DNA is extremely powerful. It's one of our greatest technologies. It is the greatest technology here on Earth, is the human skin suit. So I like to challenge people to believe that you have the ability to access all of those dimensions while still in this body. So you can communicate with a lot of different beings, and they could be in various different dimensions. So that's what the awakening is about. It's about expanding, not just into 5D, but beyond, and accessing multi-dimensions at the exact same time.
So the multiverse all at the same time. I really love that message because that's really important. I think that's something that, I not really haven't seen, but it just, I can gravitate to see where, as spiritual people, as what we call spiritual people, right? This awakening that, we all know everything, we know what's going on. But there is that limitation. I did feel that limitation on certain things. And it reminds me of just how we had to conform. Everybody likes to conform. If you're not doing one thing or another, you got to conform in this little package. You fit in this little box. And I think that was really important to and very powerful. That message that you just said is to let people know that, you are powerful. You're a little bit more than the community says you are, because, nobody likes to see that, somebody achieving a little bit higher than themselves, right? They always want to gravitate to the lowest common denominator in their group or their so-called group, I guess I could call it. But yeah, very powerful. I really love that.
Not only that, but we have a hard time breaking free of linear concepts. Like the divine feminine energy is very abstract. And so understanding that space and time do not exist beyond this dimension, when you get into higher dimensions such as 5, 6, and 7 and beyond, that you can access multiple ones at the exact same moment. And sometimes we think, well, in order to get to 7, you got to go through 6. And in order to get to 6, you got to go get through 5. And that's just the human.
That's so human. Yeah, just think
Yeah, it's
about it.
just the
Yeah.
human linear programming that we are taught in this lifetime. So it's about breaking free of those constructs and allowing
Yeah.
yourself to become extremely limitless and expansive.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you do anyways. That's part of your programs too. Is that correct, right, too? Is like you talk about that in your self-alchemy programs too as well, transformation, things like that too as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to get onto is portals, because you've been talking a lot about that lately, and how all these portals are opening up, different energies, frequencies that are affecting us. Can you tell us a little about what is the portal? Like, what are portals? Like, what's happening and what's going on with those?
A portal is basically like a doorway into another dimension. So it's an energetic doorway. So for instance, sometimes when I do tarot readings, if I'm thinking about someone else or I'm trying to read into someone else's energy, I may open a portal. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say may. I know I've opened portals to that person's galactic self to upload information that I'm getting through the tarot reading to their galactic self, which then downloads into the human operating system of that person here on Earth. So that's one way of portals working. Okay. Portals are just basically energetic gateways into other realms. So you, for instance, we have gateway portals of dates. Any kind of double number, the 99, the 1010s. We have an 1111 coming up, which I'm planning on doing a guided meditation with someone online on the 1111 portal. We have the December 1221 portal, which is, from what I understand, all the information that I've been receiving and then other people I know in the community receiving, is a very potent portal. Now, it's always a big portal. There's always a lot of access to higher dimensional energies that day, that if you're performing ceremony, if you're in meditation, you can access them and receive the benefits that will be able to integrate into your own system. Just think of it as like, if you're a computer, it's almost like the entire universe opens a doorway to give you an entire massive download to upgrade your system.
Okay. So is it specifically to dimensional, or is it multiverse? Is it specific galactic influences? Is it, certain planetary influences like the Palladians, the Arcturians, like who's opening these portals?
It's cosmic.
It's cosmic.
Yeah.
So on a grand scale. So they're kind of going, okay, we need to open up this energy. These people are not doing so well. We need to kind of give them a little bit of a juice to kind of get them going.
Yeah, so everyone on Earth is open to this portal if they want to be. If this portal is available to anyone on Earth, and there are certain energies that will be coming into the planet on the 1221 portal. And from what I understand is that there is a huge opportunity of integrating more of the 5D operating system into your current system. But in order to prepare for that, what information I've received is that you're going to have to make really important decisions leading up to the portal that you wouldn't normally make. So this is about getting out of your comfort zone and upgrading yourself to a place where you're finally ready to let go of things you have been holding on to. Also moving out of a programmed way of operating that is inherent in all of us from children, because our subconscious is continuously programmed. But as you heal and you choose to live from a place of liberation, which is where the majority of us are here, to liberate ourselves and through that liberate humanity, then you have to liberate yourself from old programming. And old programming can keep us stuck in feedback loops where we continuously find ourselves recreating scenarios in relationships and issues over and over again because we're not choosing differently. So, for instance, one of the things that I've noticed over the last few months is, I would say since the summer, is that my tendency when a relationship is, and this can be any kind of relationship,
Sure.
is not going so well, I will hang on and try to make it work. And as opposed to really allowing myself to integrate my higher self aspects into the moment extremely fast, look at everything from a higher point of view, and then act on it immediately versus dragging it out and eventually getting to the point that I could have gotten to a lot sooner. And so I started making these swift decisions in ways that I knew deep down it was the right decision, but it scared me because it was so out of my regular way of doing things. Usually I take my time, I double check, I cross T's, I dot I's, I make sure everything's like, I know I've given everything to this situation, now I got to bounce. This time it was like, no, I pulled back, I did a quick scour or scan, I should say, of basically the map of what I'm looking at. And I knew instantly what I had to do in order to have the best results I wanted. And I've now done that with a couple of relationships where I've had to walk away. And I knew that it was in the best interest of myself, but it was also in the best interest of the other person. I was just the one who was able to see the higher perspective at the time. And so making these decisions is setting me up for having a more, how do I say it? Opportunistic experience on the 1221 portal.
So basically right now you're preparing yourself right now for this particular portal to receive, higher vibration. So for the people who may be listening or watching this video, is there something that they can do right now to access that? I know you kind of briefly talked, but is there anything constructive? Like do they need to get the meditation, start working on that, start, journaling, little tidbits that maybe they can start preparing for this?
Yeah, meditation is very important. If you don't know how to meditate, listen to high frequency music, binaural beats, for 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day. Do breath work. Everyone knows how to breathe. Just breathe deeply. Do a 20-minute session every day where you breathe in through your nose and you exhale through your mouth. Just slowing the breath down, allowing the breath to basically bring heart and mind into union and communion with one another through the breath, stabilizing you. Clean up your diet, just eat higher vibration foods. And that doesn't mean you can't eat meat. Just eat
thank
good.
you on that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that because, a lot of people, say, oh, can't eat meat. You can't eat meat.
It's bullshit.
Yeah. I so believe that, and the thing is too, is like, people always ask me like that, you're an outdoorsman. How can you be spiritual when you're out there with Bambi and the gang out there, and
what do you think all our ancestors did when they
know
were?
that, but it's the community, right?
Yeah. Well,
so, but
I have to say that, and this is not a dig on anyone who's a vegan, but you've got to really know what you're doing in order to be healthy as a vegan.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't, and they don't know how to get their protein properly. And protein are the building blocks of your DNA.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this, and it's a little controversial.
That's all right. That's a good thing about this podcast. It's mine. So.
And this is not me telling you what you should or shouldn't do. Please just listen to your own inner guidance and what you feel is right for your body, because I have been myself vegetarian at times, which I knew was right for me at that time. And then now I've gone back to eating meat because it's right for me at this time.
Yeah.
But I believe that veganism is part of it. The reason why it's come to light is designed to make people malnutritioned and to have their DNA suffer. Now that doesn't mean that you can't be healthy as a vegan. You just have to really know your stuff, and you've really got to do your research.
Yeah, because over the years, working in health clinics and stuff like that, I've seen people who are vegan and stuff like that. And I went to school with a couple of vegans, and they always look sickly. They always look tired. They're always struggling with their health, and I do see that. But for everybody who is a vegan, I absolutely commend them. Yeah, like you said, everybody's got their own choice, their own body, and whatever works for them works for them. So
absolutely,
it's really amazing. Yeah. So
absolutely. But breath work, eating well, lots of clean water, superfood like greens are really good for you because it helps your body capture.
Any particular greens?
I mean like
a wheatgrass juice or something.
Yeah,
like that?
something like that. I use Amazing Grass Raw Reserve, just because it gets like your chlorella. There's a whole bunch of different ones all in one. And the reason why I find greens really helpful is because they capture the light.
That makes sense. Now, I've actually heard of this, which is it's not a new trend, but it's just something, how people talk about, the nutritional qualities of food, but they're not talking really about the light quotient in food too, as well. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think a lot of vegans kind of move to that direction, because because plants contain more light information, stuff like that. So they have a higher light quotient in the food versus something as dense. But as far as meat goes, so do you know much about the light quotient of food? Because I know you kind of briefly talked about that a bit.
No, not so much. All I really know is that I understand that the way food is prepared, grown, all of that has an impact on the quality.
Oh
So
yeah,
if you're
for
buying
sure.
from like local farmers who really care about the land and take care of the land, take care of the animals, everything's sustainable, then you're going to have a better food experience in your body. Just remember that for anyone who's vegetarian or vegan, that consciousness exists in not just animals but plants as well. So I know that some people are, don't want to kill an animal, and so they just want to eat plants. But believe me, plants are very conscious and feel as much as we do. So just know that we're all here on part of this planet to sustain one another and be part of a cyclical Mother Nature experience. And as long as we're all in the vibration of love and honor, and know that we're giving grace to whatever it is that we're consuming, we're grateful, that that is one of the most important things that I think a lot of us have lost. Whether it doesn't matter if like you eat meat, you eat vegetables, fish, whatever it is,
Yeah,
I find that we've disengaged from the ceremony of gratitude for that which sustains us,
that makes
including
total
our
sense.
breath. you know
Yeah. That's so true. Because I mean, how many people actually think about it, like breathing? How many people actually think about, doing deep breaths and having that life force, that energy, which it is that energy
Mhm.
bringing into the body. It's so simple, but how many people, I forget to do that all the time. I mean, I do when I kind of meditate, but on a regular basis, I mean, I'm getting better at it. I kind of get heart centered. I go back, take some deep breaths in, just get heart centered, get grounded, kind of get relaxed. But yeah, a lot of people out there don't kind of breathe. They'd be, I'm breathing now. Like, why do I need to
Mhm.
breathe deeply? And breathe in and breathe
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
And so ceremony is another great thing to prepare for the portals. If you can create ceremony in your life, whether it's ceremony around your food, ceremony before you go to bed, some sort of, again, a breathing ceremony. Um,
Give me some example. Like, you talk about maybe a ceremony before they go to bed, like anything that pops out, that they could do.
I mean, you could light a candle, you could pull an oracle card, you could deepen your breath for like a couple minutes and just tune into spirit, tune into source to receive whatever messages you wish and turn it into a ceremony. And of course, that only has to be 5 minutes, 10 minutes long, whatever you want it to be, really. But if you do it every night at around like, before you go to bed, or you make it part of like a ritual.
So just like
This
getting up
is
and making your coffee.
exactly, your coffee can be a ritual too, but make it a spiritual practice in that you really put love into it, and like you program, like we can program our food, we can program our water.
Yeah, I so believe that too, because obviously me being a Reiki practitioner, yeah, I mean, that's one of the first things they teach you about,
Yeah.
blessing your food and changing that too as well. So there's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of science to that now too as well. So it's not like it's woo woo, there's a lot of
No.
science that goes behind that too as well. So that makes really good sense. Something small, like, something simple is like your cup of coffee. I know the Japanese have their Japanese tea ceremonies, it's very, majestic and beautiful and, very Zen like, but again, it's that ritual. You can do that with your coffee too. You can just sit there before, bless your coffee. You can sit there and just stay in heart gratitude, place your hand over your heart, just before you're about to pour it, or, if it brews or grind it, if you do a pour over, you're a chemics person or whatever you want to do, but just kind of make it that way. I think it's a fantastic idea. Kind of
Hmm.
sets the
Hmm.
tone for the day, like waking up with gratitude or even going to bed with gratitude.
And what does it do? It makes you present in the moment, in the now, when you do rituals. It
Yeah.
really grounds you and it makes you very present. So it's just helpful, because in this world, we're constantly being pulled in 1,000 different directions. You got your phone, you got your computer, you got the TV, potentially all these different devices going. And then if you live with people, you got a family, there's just so much
Yeah.
going
Just your
on.
energy is like pull, 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 pull,
Yeah.
pull. And there's nothing left for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting too as well. So that brings me, as we kind of talked about it briefly, talked about, galactic influences. We talked about portals and stuff like that, but I really want to talk about galactic influences on this, because you talked about, consciousness is, it's almost like, I like to say, I've been seeing like this, and you've probably seen this probably a little bit more than I have. It's kind of like a warfare on consciousness. And, a lot of things out there that's trying to suppress our consciousness, trying to open and awaken our consciousness and things like that. And I know that there are some times planetary or galactic influences that kind of help us to kind of go, hey, we need to push these people in the right direction. We need to have these kind of galactic influences, or, people trying to help us to get into a different thought process and different consciousness. Is there anything specific that you know of, that any specific, against galactic influences that may be kind of showing up that are helping humanity at this time?
Oh yeah.
Go ahead. Well, let us know.
The Palladians, the Arcturians, the Syrians, those for sure. The Lyran, did I say the Lyrans?
Yeah, I know you briefly touched on that
Um,
at the beginning of the podcast.
Even the reptilians.
Okay, so let's talk about them for. Let me just stop briefly, because from my understanding, again, what I've heard and what I've seen too as well, they tend to be the more dark,
aggressive.
dark side, yeah, of that. Everybody's listened to David Icke talks about them, in his beginnings. He really focused on the reptilians and how they were walking amongst us, and they were influencing governments and stuff like that, and all this stuff. I mean, back in the day when I first read that information, it's kind of like, that's just way out there. That was a way to, but then it's like, as you kind of do more research until you kind of get into it more, he's kind of like, maybe he wasn't a crazy mother. You know what I mean? It's interesting, but yeah. So talk about that, please. Because I think there's a lot of misinformation about these people, this race of beings, whoever they are.
Yeah, I think it's important to just, again, remember, you can't have the light without the dark, and vice versa. They must be together.
Yeah.
And the dark aspects are only there to mirror back to us things that we need to heal within us. They're just showing other versions of ourself. And so really ascending the idea of duality is one of the hardest journeys here on this planet. Now, the reptilian race, yeah, they cause a lot of problems down here in general, but that doesn't mean that there aren't reptilians within that race that are good. I have a reptilian guide, and he's very compassionate. He's very heart-centered. In fact, the entire frequency color that I see from him is often a light pink color and light purple. Yeah. And there's just so much compassion that comes from this being. And they are here to teach us the origins before a lot of the destruction happened, within the reptilian race. So we have to just remember that there are good within bad, and then there are races that tend to lean a little bit more dark and ones that tend to lean a bit more light. But again, everyone is playing a role. Everything is playing a role here perfectly for us to have this experience, learn what we need to. And I guarantee you, in other lifetimes, we've all been on the darker side of things.
Oh, yeah, I firmly believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it, we didn't come into this particular lifetime, all enlightened and, hey, I know what's going on and I know what's going to happen, and it's amazing, and I'm just such a nice guy. And yeah, no, I definitely understand that for sure. But that's really interesting to see how these galactic and planetary influences. Now, a lot of people out there are always, and I was always, again, sometimes, I kind of sit there and be the skeptic mind, and I kind of go, it seems a little out there. Sometimes it just seems a little out there, but you kind of start to feel it as those energies shifting. And I know my own consciousness is starting to change and develop in different, because again, most of my influences and stuff like I've never seen is mainly on the psychic realms, dealing with spirit guides and dealing with discarnate people and stuff like that. And the odd time, the angelic realm through my readings and stuff like that. But nothing is too extreme to these other planetary systems. Doesn't mean they are not out there and they're not influencing, but as I change myself, I'm noticing there's these kind of galactic influences, and I can see them and feel them more than I normally used to do. And that's why I wanted to touch on you, because I know you've talked about that in the past. You talked about different people on your podcast, and you're kind of in the know of this, and you're kind of like my go-to girl to kind of get this information out there. And I think it's really important to, we're all kind of like this galactic family, that we're a little bit more than just these, these skin suits or little meat suits that we walk around in. There's so much more to it. And that's one thing I love about your podcast too, as well. And you're not afraid to actually go out there and kind of tell it what it is, and that's one thing I really commend you on, is that, I hate to kind of say this, but it's really nice to see, somebody who's got some balls, you know what I mean? In a very nice way of saying it. It's amazing that you kind of get out there, and you really, and you don't take any shit from people, which is, I noticed too as well. Like you really.
Are you joking? I just look at this. I just took some. This is a rollerblading accident.
Yeah, sure, Nicole. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It makes total sense. Yeah. But no, I think that's fantastic. And, that's one of the things, I wanted to have you on as one of my guests on there too, as well. And because you do have such a great platform and you got a lot of things, but I want to talk to you about your programs. I know you invested a lot in these programs. Can you talk to me about your AlcheME program? What's available out there? Because I think, you've kind of lived it, a lot of the stuff that you have and you talk about, you actually live it. You're not one of these bullshit artists who just basically goes online and goes, hey, look at me, I'm spiritual, follow me. Like you kind of lived your stuff. So can you talk about your programs?
Yeah. So my AlcheME program is something that I birthed September of 2019. And it's a monthly subscription program that I created for people who couldn't necessarily afford one-on-one coaching, but they were interested in deepening their journey, understanding their lessons, and also wanting to connect with like-minded people, which is very difficult when you're on this journey, is to be able to find people you can actually open up to about this stuff. Because let's face it, the majority of the world thinks you're crazy.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I created this program that, every month there's new content where I go over the astrological alignments and how that's influencing our shadow work and what that's bringing up for us all that month, what to look out for. I also will then integrate some of the things I've learned through my own journey, tools, lessons, things that come up to help people understand how to deal with what's going on in their life. I also produce a guided meditation each month that is new for everyone in the program. So they get a new meditation that is intuitively inspired by what I feel is guided to be needed at that time for the group. And then, of course, I offer a timeless tarot reading for the group. I tune into the group's energies and I do these readings for basically the group that they can all watch and tune into. And I've also now what I've done with the program, which has kind of been a little bit of a game changer, is I've created a Discord chat. So I have a private server on Discord for my AlcheME group, and anyone who's part of the group can have access to the Discord chat, and everyone's so supportive in there. It's really like a family.
Good.
And people are opening up, they're getting vulnerable, they're sharing things that they're scared to share, and it's allowing healing to take place. So people are allowed to go through their healing in a place that's safe. You're not going to feel judged. And that's one of the hardest things, when we are going through our healing, we need to be in a safe environment. We need to be in a safe relationship. And it's very hard to cultivate relationships that are safe for this kind of healing. So this
it's so
program is kind of designed to help do that.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. I think that's one of the most, amazing things that we need right now is healing. It's just healing on a soul level, on an emotional level, and things like that, and providing a space like that, because it is very vulnerable. I know my own journey, it's been difficult to find places, going through therapy and things like that, and having experiences that weren't so beneficial, and having a safe place to kind of, be raw and real,
Mm-hmm.
and get those emotions out, and really start healing that process. Because my God, it's a lot of work. Sometimes it sucks. And,
Yeah.
being for a guy too, as well, there's always that stigma, trying to be emotional, stuff like that. And I've always been a sensitive guy, and, even since I was a child, but to, to allow myself to express my feelings, and to kind of, get down there and bawl my eyes out and let that pain come up, and just, sit with it and be in that safe space. So that's a fantastic thing there. So, you know, commend you again on that process.
Yeah, and it's also designed to help people open their intuitive gifts. I have a couple people in the program who've started speaking light language,
Wow.
and I
Okay.
created,
Okay. Just before you get there. So what is light language? Okay. Cause I know if somebody's listening to this, they're going, okay, what are they talking about? Light language.
it is the language of light. So it's different tones and frequencies that come through, that move through the heart more than the mind. So the heart understands it, the mind doesn't necessarily understand it. It sounds like someone is maybe speaking in tongues when it
Okay.
comes through, but it's very much a galactic language.
Influence. Is it a galactic influence right now?
Well, yeah, like like with any kind of language, there's different dialects. Like
Yeah.
I've heard different kinds of light language come out of one person, like 5 different
Wow.
dialects in one session. And I've actually started speaking light language in my
Come
dreams.
on. Really?
No, in my dreams, not in
Okay. Oh,
physical reality yet. But
okay.
even still, even in my dreams, I'm like, wow, I'm speaking light language. And it's just interesting to hear it coming out of my mouth and the sounds. I'm always in awe of it. But
Yeah.
I have 2 people in the group who speak light language. And so I created a voice channel that's a light language voice channel in the Discord chat. And we can all hop on there from time to time. We'll say, okay, everyone at this time hop in, and so is going to speak a little bit of light language for us.
Wow.
Um, and it's putting them in a place where they have to face some of their fears and open up their gifts more. And that's kind of what it's about. It's about getting people more confident in their own intuitions and embracing their gifts and using them. And light language also can be very grounding. It can activate other people. It can heal the frequencies around you. If you're saying them, there may be like that particular location may need those frequencies, and you're like the conduit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's amazing. So whoever hasn't heard it, it is, for me, the first time I heard it, it really kind of freaked me out, because there was part of me that's kind of going, okay, this is bullshit. But there was a part of me that kind of said, this actually gravitates. Like there's something, I'm kind of feeling something weird happening with me. Like it's something resonating. But the rational brain's going, yeah, this chick is just full of shit. Like this is out there. This is like right out there. And then again, it's like that duality. Then my brain kind of goes, no, this is so cool. But my body's kind of going, yeah, this is really nice. I'm getting all kind of jazzed up at the same time. So yeah, it's really interesting. For those people, if you get a chance if you know somebody who's doing it, and you got to listen to it. So joining your group there, joining your program, I think that'd be a fantastic idea. Even for you guys out there, if you guys are listening right now and you're thinking this is just horseshit, it's, it really isn't. I was the biggest skeptic when it came to it, but it's not horseshit. It's really, really authentic. And, when it does come from heart, you can feel it. And that's the key. As guys, I know myself, it's hard to feel. We're kind of closed off in this area here. But when you start opening up, it will start to resonate in your heart. And it'll be the weirdest thing, because you'll be going, oh yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, what's going on here? But then your brain just kind of shuts off, and then you start feeling your heart. So it's a real cool thing. So yeah, definitely go.
Yeah.
If you can
And
find somebody, highly
one of the
recommend
things
Nicole's
I
course.
wanted to just kind of note here about the masculine and the feminine traits, men typically, this is not always, but
Yes.
typically tend to move through this journey a little slower, just because men are more logical, usually, typically, not always. It's just the nature of the masculine energy. And women will move through it faster because they feel more and they're more abstract, and they can, the nature of the feminine energy is this is normal. You know, this is where what's the word I'm looking for? It's at its strength. However, what I've noticed in my sessions with my clients when I'm coaching them, and what I've seen over the years, is that although it may take a man a little longer to understand something, as soon as he gets it, he gets it.
Yeah, it's like, bang.
Boom.
Yeah,
Whereas with
done.
a woman, it can like, oh no, I kind of get it, you know, whatever, but it doesn't fully, like, it takes a little longer to have that, like, oh yeah, totally know it.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting, which is, you know, the path to masculinity cannot be done without the feminine
Well, that
there,
makes total
and
sense.
vice versa.
Yeah.
So
It's the balance between the two of them, which is really, really important. So,
yeah.
well, on that note, Nicole, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. You know, I'm always in awe of what you've done, where you've came from, all the amazing things that you do, which you are doing right now, which has been absolutely fantastic. You know, you are a true light to this world. I appreciate all the stuff that you do. Please continue on with your work. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're absolute a doll. So for those who don't know, it's Nicole Frolick. You know, you can find her online. You got Inflexible Me. What's the website?
NicoleFrolick.com.
NicoleFrolick.com. Well, actually, you know, I'll just let you handle. Okay, so where can they find you, Nicole? They want to find all these great stuff, your AlcheME program, all that good stuff. So
Yeah, you can just go to my website, NicoleFrolick.com. My YouTube channel, where I am posting sometimes 3 or 4 videos a week these days.
I see you post a lot.
It just like keeps coming in. It's like I can't stop the creative flow.
Yeah.
Nicole is, again, under my name, Nicole Frolick. It should be really easy to find that channel. Again, everything's on my website. My AlcheME program's there if you want to join under the Academy. And anything else there.
Your podcast.
Oh, and my podcast. Yeah, my podcast, Enlighten Up, comes out every Tuesday. I air it live on my YouTube channel now at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then once I'm done, I upload everything into iTunes, Spotify. So depending on what you prefer, if you prefer the video or the audio, it's there. And we're coming up to 200 episodes probably in the next couple of months, in like 3 months.
I was like going, maybe I should be on that 200th episode.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there. You know, it's been amazing. Yeah. And again, you were the inspiration for this. You know, you've kind of been pushing me to do this sort of thing for a while.
I'm so proud of you. Yeah.
Well, you know, like you said, once we get it, we get it. It takes us a little bit longer, but once we kind of get it, you know, that's it. But again, Nicole,
you just got to start.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Just get started. So for everybody listening, this is the Metaphysical Mentor Podcast with Michael Philpott. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you soon.